You are about to witness the birth of the world as we know it today. Born from the fires of a horrific extraterrestrial attack. It is one of the greatest untold stories in the history of life on Earth. From floods to fire, famine to fratricide. One punishment after the next will rain down on our planet, the ultimate precursor to the biblical plagues. And as in the book of Exodus, the ruling class will be cut down, freeing the lowly mammals, once their vulnerable prey, to forge a dynasty of their own. Now, you will experience the harrowing final year of the dinosaurs. Panic in the Sky on Animal Armageddon. This world ever was and is and shall be ever-living fire. Heraclitus, 6th century BC. 65 million years ago, a world was destroyed when a 6-mile-wide asteroid struck the coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. $100 million megatons of energy were released, shaking the entire planet, sending mega tsunamis crashing across coastlines, and pummeling the surface with falling debris. And that was just the first 24 hours.
We didn't kill everybody off on the first day, but we sowed the seeds that would kill them off. It's as if nature planted a minefield. For every day in the next year, some more of you are going to walk on this mine and get killed off by the killers, which would have been heat, acid rain, darkness, starvation, disease, you name it.
The next 12 months would see the fall of one dynasty and the surprising rise of another. Day one has passed, but the final destruction of 150 million years of dinosaur rule over the Earth has barely begun. Day two. From space, Earth looks like an alien planet with rings of debris that will linger for years. Not a single corner of the globe has been spared. Red-hot meteor fragments thrown into space by the impact rain down from the sky. They start fires wherever they hit. The land is trapped in a raging, unstoppable, all-consuming inferno.
Everything would be on fire. Fires would be starting up all over the place. The entire world would be going up in a conflagration, and so the animals have no safe place to go. The herds would be split up and confused. They wouldn't have a safe place to run. They'd be blinded by smoke. Many of them probably died from smoke inhalation, as well as from the heat or from the fire outright.
High oxygen levels in the prehistoric air make the fires burn even hotter and faster than they would today. Surface temperatures spike. Some places may have reached 1,200 degrees. Untold numbers of dinosaurs are burned alive. North and South America are hit hardest, with fires so intense they are whipped into giant storms of smoke and flame.
Fires create their own problems. They create winds because you've got hot here and cool here. All that cool air is going to rush into that fire, and you start getting these winds themselves that are sucking air into that fire. And fairly soon, The entire continent, as far as we can tell, is on fire.
But even in these killing fields, there are a few survivors. In what is now Alaska, our humble ancestor, the small mammal Purgatorius, scrambles for shelter in the raging firestorm. This small creature is a proto-primate, believed to be a precursor to today's primates. On the outside, it looks like a small rodent, but its teeth are shaped much more like our own than those of a mouse or rat, leading scientists to believe that Purgatorius helped give rise to modern primates. Everything from monkeys to gorillas and even human beings.
It probably scurried about, maybe had some climbing ability, but it wasn't a primate that we think of today.
For millions of years, Purgatorius has been nothing but a food source for bigger, more powerful dinosaurs. Will they be able to survive the next 12 months and reach the promised land? Meanwhile, halfway around the world, in what is now Mongolia, life is almost normal. The earth shook, and some debris rained down from the sky, but sparse vegetation kept the fires from growing out of control. These creatures have no idea what is about to envelop them. The dinosaur Protoceratops dominates these arid plains. Protoceratops is a far eastern cousin of the more famous Triceratops. It's just a few feet tall, but weighs almost 400 pounds.
Okay, Protoceratops is a smaller animal. They were about pig-sized, up to maybe cow-sized, and they were probably also social animals. We find nests of baby Protoceratops together. We find groups of subadults and adults traveling together. So this behavior of moving in a herd probably started back in the Protoceratopsian ancestors.
The small feathered velociraptor preyed on the herds. At only 3 feet tall, velociraptors were vicious hunters. Their deadliest weapon, a pair of sickle-shaped claws that could rip open its prey. It was the cheetah of its day, capable of speed bursts in excess of 40 miles per hour. But Protoceratops don't go down as easily as a gazelle.
There's the famous fighting dinosaur specimen, in which you have a velociraptor and a Protoceratops that died locked in combat. The velociraptor has its sickle claw buried in the stomach of the Protoceratops. Meanwhile, the Protoceratops is using its big beak to bite down on one of the arms of the velociraptor. And they were buried by a sandstorm.
Velociraptors have harassed herds of Protoceratops for years. But a new killer is on the horizon. As the world continues to burn, Mongolia will soon be touched by disaster. Day 3. Mercifully, the fires have diminished in North America, leaving behind a charred and blackened landscape. Tyrannosaurus rex once ruled here. Now this mighty predator searches in vain for food. He's weak and sickly, barely able to put one foot in front of the other.
T-Rex is a very large dinosaur. Presumably it didn't have many places or choices where to hide, and it needed to eat very often, and therefore I'm sure that as the prey was dying, the animal was unable to find its food. So the impact must have been particularly devastating for a species such as T-Rex.
This weakened T-Rex sights a Triceratops. As ruler, T-Rex once feasted on herds of Triceratops. But he's not master anymore. Forgetting this, he makes a fatal mistake. The chain reaction of disaster marches on. As one cataclysm tapers off, another rushes in. Each builds on the other, with no time to recover. Storm clouds gather over planet Earth, laden with billions of tons of ash and noxious chemicals from the impact. This new plague will touch every corner of the globe. The mass extinction is just getting started. Death, like birth, is a secret of nature. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, 2nd century AD. In the days after a massive asteroid smashed into our planet, a plague of fire has scorched the land. Death is everywhere. The lucky few to survive see nothing but misery around them. They may have envied the dead. But this is what our ancestors, the mammals, have to survive if they are to inherit the Earth. It's still only 3 days after impact. You're witnessing the beginning of a new lethal plague, one that will brutally kill even more dinosaurs throughout the globe. Weather systems are being altered dramatically by smoke, soot, ash, and a huge influx of toxic chemicals. The most potent is sulfur, produced by the type of rocks vaporized during impact. When the asteroid hit in the Yucatan, it landed in a bed of gypsum, a mineral that contains sulfur. Millions of tons of this caustic element would have been blasted into the atmosphere in just a few short hours.
If you scoop up the sedimentary sulfur-rich stuff, it goes up in fine particulate material. The sulfur comes in contact with water in the atmosphere, and it converts, after several chemical reactions, to an acid, sulfuric acid.
The skies are poisoned. Water once brought life to the world. Now it brings only pain and death. Corrosive enough to dissolve rock. This lethal rain would burn flesh on contact. With nowhere to hide, the big dinosaurs suffer intensely. In what is now Western China, a large meat-eater can't find shelter from the storm. This is Tarbosaurus, a close relative of the T-Rex. Tarbosaurus is just under 40 feet long, a little smaller than T-Rex. 60 banana-sized teeth line its powerful jaw. In the days before the disaster, Tarbosaurus stalked these wide river valleys and plains with impunity. Not anymore. The acid rain comes down in sheets, torturing the dying beast. Within days, the lethal monsoons will drive this animal into extinction. The animals that Tarbosaurus once preyed on should be flourishing them gone, but they aren't. Their prey, the titanosaurs, are a type of long-necked sauropod and the last in a long lineage of dinosaurs stretching back 150 million years.
The long-necked dinosaurs, the giant sauropods, were the largest animals that ever lived on land. And they were really diverse and successful in North America in the Jurassic.
Titanosaurs could be found on every continent, all over the globe. Some were over 100 feet long, almost 10 times bigger than an elephant. In better times, the herds wandered constantly, always searching for lands that could sustain their enormous appetites. This wide variety of plant life that dinosaurs ate on a daily basis can still be investigated in our time. Near Rame, North Dakota, in the United States, the sediments left behind by an ancient stream bed still preserve many of these plants.
Some more there. That's really nice. Look at that one.
Their impressions are clearly visible when the rocks are split open.
It's the richest assemblage known in the world right now. It produces 103 different types of plants. About 85% are extinct. The others are ancestral to modern plants like the sycamores, the magnolias, the laurels, and some of the sequoias that can also be found here.
Upon closer inspection, the whole ecology of this late Cretaceous floodplain becomes clear.
These leaves are known to preserve insect damage, and you can see some on this one here, Dave.
Oh, yeah?
Notice the little holes that are in here?
Yeah, you know,
those are actual leaf remains that bear insect damage from the insects. Quite a lot of insect damage. So it shows that the insect population was still robust at this time as well.
By studying these leaves, scientists piece together the daily life of the dinosaurs.
Very large sauropods were probably pushing in several hundred pounds of plant material a day. That means they had to be pushing out several hundred pounds of something else at the other end. And if you have a herd of these animals that weigh 15 or 20 tons, and they're all making hundreds of pounds of poop every day, there's probably a whole ecology of dung beetles and plants and fungi and little animals that took advantage of those raw materials.
Long-necked sauropods were once the most plentiful dinosaurs on Earth. Now acid rain has eaten them alive. Like so many other large dinosaurs, they simply can't take refuge. Along with Tarbosaurus, the disaster will soon drive their prey, the sauropod, to extinction too. All over the world, deadly storms kill without mercy. In North America, huge acidic floods will scour an entirely new landscape.
Before the extinction, we were dealing with this nice forested coastal plain. After the extinction, those forests appear to be gone. And what appears there instead are massive, extensive floods. Hundreds of thousands of square miles of flooded area in the western interior of North America.
But while the world of dinosaurs suffers, our ancestors, the once vulnerable mammals, look on, thankful they're being passed over.
Small size conferred on mammals the ability to ride something like this out because they could seek refugia from the initial environmental destruction.
From their hidden lairs, they hear their former rulers become helpless victims. Perhaps one day it will be safe to come out, but for now they must keep out of sight as death rains down everywhere. Day 4. The corrosive downpour has begun to poison the last bastion of Earth's giants, the oceans. The sea once pulsed with life, home to a rich variety of animals.
There are many different types of fish. An animal that we hear a lot about are animals called plesiosaurs, which would look a lot like a Loch Ness monster, basically. And then there would have been things called mosasaurs. And what mosasaurs were marine adapted lizards, very closely related to the modern Komodo dragon or to the goanna, which is an Australian carnivorous lizard. Mosasaurs got to be quite large. I would say the largest mosasaurs reached upwards of 45 feet in length.
Marine reptiles like the mosasaur once ruled the seas, but now the plague of acid rain is destroying their kingdom. The once thriving seas are under siege. Ash and acid rain turn the surface water into a toxic sludge. Plankton, the base of the food chain, dissolves into nothingness. Ammonites, the squid of this time, are hit hard too. Adults can grow to huge sizes, over 3,000 pounds, with shells as large as tractor tires. The adults living in deep water are mostly unaffected, but their young spend the first days and weeks of their lives floating at the surface, a death sentence for the future of the species.
My sense is that these things laid eggs that were at the surface. They were in the plankton, tiny little ammonites living in the top 2 inches of the sea. They have little air chambers, and they sort of float around happily until, of course, all hell breaks loose, and the top part of the sea goes dark and goes acid and eats their little shells off. It kills them off.
Any species that raises its young here is now doomed. But some find ways to make sure their offspring survive. Sharks will make it through this massacre. In fact, these resilient creatures have survived numerous mass extinctions, though the details are shocking. Many sharks give birth to live young, but some play host to interuterine cannibalism. While still in the womb, the shark pups actually prey on each other, ensuring only the hardiest survive. It's a brutal illustration of Darwin's survival of the fittest, but it's helped them survive for over 400 million years, while many others have become extinct. It's only day 5. And while those still alive are clamoring for protection from the deluge of acid rain, another plague draws near. Huge amounts of debris linger in the atmosphere, slowly spreading from pole to pole. Soon the entire globe will become pitch black. Will anyone survive this horrible twilight? Universal darkness buries all. Alexander Pope, 1740s. An asteroid impact has wreaked havoc on planet Earth. For 7 days, fire and acid rain have nearly obliterated all life from the surface world. And yet the most terrifying plague is yet to come. When the asteroid hit, over 60 cubic miles of debris launched into the air. Then came the smoke, soot, and dust created by the firestorms. Winds carried the dust and ash around the world, slowly but surely blotting out all light from the sun. Darkness enveloped the earth.
Now, how long that darkness persisted is hard to say. There's one very telling thing about darkness and the impact, which is that if we look at the plankton, the groups of plankton in the ocean that went extinct and the ones that survived are the ones that can tolerate a period of darkness lasting for days or weeks. The ones that went extinct are the ones that need relatively constant sunlight. So this is really good evidence that the effects were global and total, and that the darkness lasted for some time.
What we can tell about dinosaurs is they were very visual animals. We do know that. We know that they didn't have particularly good senses of smell, and we know that they had reasonably good senses of hearing. So you're dealing with animals that depend upon hearing and sight for their behavior. And now someone shuts out the lights.
For the dinosaurs, it is a terrifying new reality. Even at high noon, it felt like midnight. To see anything other than the dark abyss, you'd need night vision goggles. In what is now Alberta, Canada, a lone Tyrannosaurus rex searches for food. He's weak with hunger. A broken leg has slowed him down. But the darkness actually gives him a critical advantage. An excellent sense of smell guides him to prey. And with the lights out, they're utterly defenseless. A herd of Triceratops is nearby. It's so dark, they can't even see the ground, much less find plants to graze on.
If you're an herbivore that relies on sight, then you're really going to have a difficult time finding food. If you happen to bump into a stand of what you eat, that's great. But if you don't bump into that stand, then you don't eat.
The hobbled T-Rex closes in and snags his meal. He savors the taste of fresh meat. But this will be his last. In this harsh world, a wounded animal can't last long. 2 months pass, and there's no relief from the darkness. It's driven many dinosaurs insane.
Any animal that has a brain can go crazy, and dinosaurs certainly had brains and could certainly go crazy. But I think it's a fair statement to say that dinosaurs were more than smart enough to react to this, to remember it, to be affected by it in a permanent way.
But once again, it seems our ancestors are built to weather these relentless plagues.
Mammals had evolved through the age of dinosaurs as nocturnal organisms. So they had developed particular parts of their brain and their senses that allowed them to navigate during the night. So if you had a prolonged night resulting from this impact event, Purgatorius or any of the mammals that survived would have had an advantage.
As permanent midnight drags on, any vegetation spared by the fires now wilts in the darkness. Where once you'd find dinosaurs practically everywhere, now only a handful remain. The 4-month period of darkness drives all the plant-eating dinosaurs into extinction. Duck-billed dinosaurs, horned dinosaurs like Triceratops, and the long-necked sauropods.
These animals needed to eat a lot, so if they were not able to find sufficient amount of food within a relatively short period of time, that would have a tremendous impact in their populations. Not only by the fact that they would be weakened and that they eventually would starve, but also probably would have an impact in their reproductive rate.
These majestic creatures, which dominated every continent for over 130 million years, are now lost forever. The only thing that remains of these incredible creatures is their fossilized bones. One such skeleton is buried in the Badlands of North Dakota.
The site here is physically located about 15 meters below the KT boundary. And it's in a mudstone that represents the floodplain deposit. And so this represents a dinosaur that was washed either onto or died on the floodplain. And what we have is that this articulated skeletal remain. Here we have a rib, pretty much the center of the rib cage, so we have the center part of the animal.
It takes many months of sometimes back-breaking labor to unearth an entire dinosaur skeleton, but the hard work pays off. Each fossil uncovered deepens our understanding of the ancient past and our own place in the history of life.
Some sort of like small plant material in there.
4 months after the impact, the sun begins to peek out of the gloom. The picture it reveals is not pretty. It's a shattered landscape, deformed and desolate. Just when it seems the worst is over, another plague is about to strike. Lethal, bone-chilling cold. Life on Earth is already hanging by a thread. How much more can it take before the whole planet succumbs? Tyrannosaurus rex has one of the most famous bites in the history of life on Earth. Its eating habits are unlike anything that we have in the world today. So how do scientists know so much about what T-Rex ate? Find out after the break. How do scientists know so much about T-Rex's eating habits? Evidence comes first from the bones of other dinosaurs. Paleontologists find bite marks from T-Rex on duck-billed dinosaurs and horned dinosaurs like Triceratops. But more important than that is the study of coprolites, or fossilized dung.
And this also tells us a lot about its biology, because those coprolites have a lot of bone shards in them. And they also have chunks of undigested muscle in them. So what does this tell us? It tells us that T-Rex was eating the bones as well as the meat. It was pushing things through its digestive system pretty quickly.
As more clues are uncovered, science will shed even more light on the lives of these long-dead creatures. Millions of years ago, our planet was plunged into a catastrophic series of disasters. Fires swept the globe. Acid rain poisoned the land, and a 4-month plague of darkness virtually wiped out all plant life. The scale of plant life lost through this period is staggering. Some estimates are as high as 90%. The desperate situation for life on Earth is recorded in mudstones deposited 65 million years ago in the western United States. These rocks depict the frightening aftermath in vivid detail.
Here's the KT layer right down there, and we've pulled off this piece. So this is the clay that sits right on top of that iridium layers, and we see all these burrows. And these are burrows that are going into this coal and up and down along the top of this entire surface is burrowed. We don't see this below. We don't see much of it above. This is starving creatures looking for food. These are probably small insects. They're crawling through here. They're looking for anything they can find, and they're starving to death. And then we see, look, it just stops. So here's life, here's life, here's life, and here's this whole dead world.
And that wasn't all. Now, beleaguered survivors throughout the world face a new tormentor. Bone-chilling cold. Even though the sun is shining now, the glacial temperatures are here to stay. The heat of impact produced vast quantities of sulfur dioxide. This invisible gas allows light to pass through, but absorbs heat a kind of reverse greenhouse effect. An icy impact winter takes hold of planet Earth. After 6 months, our once warm, nurturing planet has turned its back on life.
So all rules change, not just the biological rules, but the geological rules change. The way it rains changes, how much, the temperature, topsy-turvy.
Day in, day out, the dinosaurs can't escape.
I think it's fair to say that dinosaurs probably could survive a drop in temperature a little more than we might at first expect that they could. It wouldn't be unreasonable for the dinosaurs living in those north and south of the poles to have experienced freezing overnight, for example. So if cold was a factor, it must have been a cold that dinosaurs had never experienced before.
In what is now Mongolia, the landscape was once green and lush. Now it is an endless wasteland, dusted in acid snow, tinged pinkish red by the fallout. Velociraptors can't find shelter against the bitter cold. One protects a small nest of eggs, the only hope these creatures have for the future. 2 starving females target the eggs and will kill the mother to get them. Survival trumps the maternal instinct. Their bellies will be full for now, but by killing the next generation, they only make it easier for their species to go extinct. It is now 7 months after the asteroid impact. The world is tattered and forbidding. But incredibly, some creatures seem fated to survive. One of these species is our ancient ancestor, Purgatorius. Cozy burrows insulate the little mammals from the bitter cold outside. And when it comes to food, Purgatorius is hardly finicky.
Mammals could be described as being scavengers. They weren't picky eaters at that time. And they probably needed that generalist type of behavior in order to survive any sort of catastrophe that came with that impact event.
A good modern generalist to use as an analog for mammals would be an opossum. You wouldn't really call an opossum a herbivore, you really wouldn't call it an insectivore, you wouldn't call it a detritivore, you'd call it an animal that eats what it can.
And so our ancient ancestor sustains itself when most other life is being snuffed out. Nine months after the impact, only a tiny remnant of the dinosaur population remains. The giant plant eaters like Triceratops and the Titanosaurs are long gone. But a few carnivores like T-Rex have managed to hang on, scavenging carcasses, eating anything they can find. But even these food sources are drying up. With nowhere else to turn, they're about to turn on themselves. What once sprang from the earth sinks back into the earth. Lucretius, 50 BC. Nine months after an asteroid slammed into Earth, the dinosaurs' 150 million year reign is entering its final days. The tide has turned. The dinosaur dynasty is doomed.
When we think about the extinction, we need to think about it not as something that happened on a given day, but the bad events from a given day putting a shock to the global system that lasted for weeks or months or maybe even years. And the things that survived are not just the things that survived the first day. They had to survive the entire ordeal. So the bad stuff keeps happening for a long time.
The final plague and the ultimate sign of their desperation is fratricide. In the western U.S., food for large meat eaters like Tyrannosaurus rex is non-existent. The only food source left is each other. Cannibalism drives the hopeless final act for Tyrannosaurus rex. In less than a year, the relentless plagues reduced this mighty species to a single bedraggled survivor. He's too weak to stand, but knows that if he lies down, he may never get up again. In this kill or be killed world, it is T-Rex who loses the final round. This species, one of the most powerful predators the world has ever known, is starved into extinction.
Extinction is more than the end of something with a long run in the past. Extinction is murdering everything that would have gone into the future. And extinction is more than killing that species, because that species likely would have given rise to another species, which would have given rise to some other species, which could have given rise to something else.
In just 1 year's time, our entire planet is nearly drained of life. Every dinosaur is now dead. Along with them, the marine reptiles like the mosasaur. In fact, the seas are virtually empty. Just a few species of fish and sharks remain. Winged reptiles called pterosaurs are wiped out as well.
Anything bigger than, say, a raccoon up to a dog-sized, anything larger than that, died out. The smaller you were, the better chance you had, but even among the small, it was a lottery. 1 out of 11 mammals survives in the Montana region. That's pretty phenomenal. I mean, that's 11 of you and 10 are dead. That's terrible odds, except let's think of the dinosaurs, all dead. So 1 out of 11 sounds pretty good, really, if you're faced with complete extinction.
In the end, nearly 70% of all species on Earth are driven into extinction. But this figure masks the severity of this catastrophe. The actual number of lives lost is incomprehensible.
Conditions just were bad enough to kill off everything in most species. But a lot of surviving species might have gone from millions of individuals to a few dozen bedraggled survivors hanging on just by the skin of their teeth.
Earth is dangerously close to becoming a dead planet. Among the ashes, a single question remains. Did the angel of death pass over enough animals for the world to live again? A century after an asteroid struck our planet, the massive crater is now hidden underwater. But these are still lifeless seas.
The big marine reptiles are gone, most of the fish are gone, most of the plankton is gone. We go from this fabulous, rich, diverse world to a biological desert.
The land dwellers rebound more quickly. With the former masters of the planet wiped out, the survivors no longer have to worry about getting eaten, and their populations quickly multiply.
There are lots of little mammals because suddenly nothing's forcing them to stay in their burrows. There aren't packs of little dromaeosaurs, and there aren't little baby tyrannosaurs running around trying to scarf them up all the time.
Turtles themselves dig well deep into the mud, perhaps with the first flash. Some early turtle goes, uh-oh, down to the bottom of a pond, into the side, dig in, dig in, dig in. And some survive. And the same with the crocs. But the warm-blooded animals did terribly. If we believe the dinosaurs were warm-blooded, I happen to. They were large and warm-blooded, meaning they needed a lot of food all the time. You cannot really hibernate well if you're a warm-blooded.
For our ancient ancestor Purgatorius, it's the dawn of a whole new day. Once they only scavenged by night. Now they can venture out any time without fear. Once prey for the dinosaurs, they are now poised to take over. The meek really have inherited the Earth. The asteroid impact was the greatest single game changer in the history of life on Earth. And who's to say it couldn't happen again?
I think it points up the importance of random events in Earth history. Some things are destined to happen. Some things are not able to be avoided or changed. And some things are just random bolts out of the blue.
While modern technology would likely see another asteroid strike coming, there's still nothing we could do to stop it. A kingdom that ruled for 150 million years was wiped out in one. Could humanity survive a similar catastrophe? Perhaps it's a question best left unanswered.